Good morning, piano parents. Welcome to the Piano Parent Podcast. If you followed my YouTube, I had a short series on YouTube a few weeks ago where I was at our Texas Music Teachers Conference, and my friend Cher Kretz with the Solution Focused Mindset or the Focused Mindset podcast suggested that I just do an unedited short video each day to talk about what I was experiencing at the conference. I was kind of nervous to do videos outside of my hotel room, and it was kind of funny the things that we choose to get nervous about, but that was my thing. And then I didn't make it all 7 days. I should have thought about that ahead of time, how busy those last couple of days would be and how excited I would be just to pack it up and get back home after so many days away from my family. So I didn't make it all 7 days. I posted 5 days. And if you want to laugh at my nervousness or whatever, that's available on YouTube. Today, I wanted to bring you to my backyard. And if you're listening to the podcast on your podcast player, then you'll be able to find this video on YouTube. I'll link it up in the show notes for you too. My backyard is nothing spectacular. In fact, I had to kind of be strategic about the view that I have behind me, that the yard isn't too high with grass and the weeds aren't too terrible. Anyway, and it's almost high noon. Well, it's a little after 11 in Texas and on the last day of June, and I decided to do a recording outside. But the sky is so pretty and there's a little breeze blowing, and I've been intending to get outside a little bit more. I've been intending to record podcasts more consistently, and so I decided to just bring the two things together. I want to communicate with you, and I want to enjoy the beautiful nature that God has created out here. So here we are. And because I'm out of practice with podcasting, I have some notes. So I'll try not to read them verbatim, but I will be referring to them just because I want to be clear-minded in the topic that we talk about today. I don't want to just waste anybody's time. We're all really busy, but I did want to offer something for you on the podcast. Those of you that have been longtime listeners, thank you for your patience and your consistency with checking in. Some of you have reached out to me on email and how's your husband doing and how are you doing, and we sure would like to hear from you again. And so I appreciate your support and the little kick in the pants every now and then. So here we are today, June 30th. I can't promise that I'll be back next Monday, but I'm constantly thinking of you and constantly thinking of things that would be helpful to share with you. And so we're here today. Let's celebrate today and try to do better in the future. And here we go. This is podcast 364, and today I want to be talking about why playing games with your piano kid matters more than you might think. Today's episode is all about games, not the kind you download from a tablet or might scroll through on your phone. I'm talking about real, physical, face-to-face kinds of games. The kind that brings you and your piano kid together. Maybe outside on the patio table, maybe even sitting on the bench at home trying to get them to practice. There is a way that you can gamify their practice, or maybe you just find a simple set of instructions for a card game and play that with your child. These days, when we have so many digital devices everywhere, it's so easy just to hand over a tablet or a phone or something like that when you're at a restaurant or at a family gathering, someplace where you want your child to just kind of be quiet so you can talk to the grown-ups. I understand that and I appreciate that. There are definitely times when I would just like to have a conversation with another adult, and I remember the days when my kids were little and they were vying for my attention as well. I'm so grateful that my kids grew up in a time when devices weren't even a thing. I don't remember when the iPad was invented, but it was after my kids were already grown. I see so many parents these days that are just handing off a tablet. Sometimes it's irritating to hear the noise at the table next door from some kid watching cartoons. When I came out to dinner, I would like to not hear those kinds of sounds. I don't even like it when there's a television on the wall at a restaurant. That's a whole rabbit. I won't chase that anymore. I know that kids need to be entertained, and sometimes a long waiting to get a table at a restaurant, or when you're out with your family and maybe there aren't activities for them to do, then you do need to be a present parent, and you do need to figure out ways to engage with your kids and occupy their time, and don't expect them to act like little adults. If you have a 4-year old, expect that they're going to act like a 4-year old. And you, as the adult, need to figure out how to manage their time, how to occupy their time in a productive way. Not productive necessarily, but a manageable way to help everybody have a pleasant experience. When my kids were little, we would, at the restaurant anyway, we would turn over use the back of a napkin, and I would draw the dots on a grid, and we would, the game where you take turns drawing a line to connect the dots, and whoever can close a box, four lines in a square, then you can put your initial in that box, and then whoever gets the most boxes on the grid, then they win the game. And it's interesting to teach your child strategy, which is something I'll be talking about a little bit later on, but just noticing things that they notice, and helping them to start to be aware of other options, maybe even being surprised at how well they pick up on different games, and maybe they can out strategize you from time to time. When we are too quick to hand over a device or turn on the television or all of these different external things that we let our kids do, we miss out on valuable moments that we can use to strengthen our own relationship with our children and start to learn a little bit more about their personality. Games, especially physical ones, when you're sitting around a table taking turns, those create micro moments of connection. You learn, you have shared inside jokes, which I'll tell you about some of those for my family. You can make up your own quirky house rules, silly strategies. It doesn't have to be profound, but it's real and it's a solid connection. And you don't build trust in a single conversation. You build it in 1,000 small interactions, like laughing over a missed turn or working together to beat the game. If you want to have a relationship, a good, solid relationship with your piano kid, with your teenager, with your adult child, that doesn't happen just in an instant. Oh, well, you're an adult now, so we're going to relate to each other. It builds over time with those small interactions, conversations in the car ride, waiting in line to drop off at school, or waiting in line for a table at a restaurant. Those small interactions are what will build your relationship. People talk about quantity over quality, or quality over quantity, and I think the quantity is even better. When my husband and I speak to each other, we're not always discussing our life plans and all of these serious conversations. We might be talking about the fact that he intentionally drapes his dirty clothes over the outside of the hamper. He doesn't put them directly inside. He doesn't leave them on the floor, but he doesn't put them all the way inside. And he has trained me over the years that that's his love language. And I'm finally starting to recognize that he's flirting with me when he doesn't do the job right. Anyway, that's a whole other rabbit. Consider, too, with playing games, the value of the cognitive benefits. When your child plays a game, even a learning-based game, but not necessarily a learning-based game, not necessarily a music theory game, they're doing more than just passing the time and playing a game. They're learning memory recall. They're practicing problem solving. They're learning to take turns and to have sportsmanship. Whether they're on the winning side of the game or the losing side of the game, they need to be a good sport about it. They're learning verbal communication, asking questions, explaining, listening while somebody else explains. There's kind of the family joke, and we've all just decided it's going to be a joke, that when we play a new game, my older daughter, Carrie, wants to hold the instructions. She wants to read the entire list of instructions. She wants to know every aspect about the game before she plays it. And if she were here sitting at this table, she might have something else to say about my interpretation. If Austin, my youngest son, brings a game that he's already been playing, he knows how to play the game. He wants to just give us the abridged rules so we can just jump in and start playing. That doesn't satisfy Carrie. She needs to read all the rules. And so as a family, we've learned, okay, just give her what she needs. Wait for just a minute, go get a snack when she's done reading the rules. And then when Austin explains the shortcut to the rules, then we can try to play. Back a long time ago, it used to be the thing that you wanted for your child to get ahead, maybe to have a leg up when they go to college or be able to get a good job, would be to get them in the best schools and give them great opportunities and give them the chance to learn lots of different skills. And I think all of those things are valuable. And this is just my theory. I'm not a doctor. I'm not anybody. I just work with lots and lots of kids. My theory is that these days, the kids who do not always have their nose in a device, the kids who are aware and they're looking, they're noticing opportunities, I feel like those are going to be the ones who get the advantage when it comes to the workplace. I feel like they're going to be the ones who know how to relate to their coworkers. We still have a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunities to work from home, and that may continue to be the thing, but there are going to be instances where they have to interact with a human being. And if you can teach them how to do that, how your family interacts with others, then I think you're giving them an advantage. I believe it's an advantage over those other kids who just know how to interact with a screen. There's value to a screen, absolutely, but you want to balance it out. I think you want to give your kid both options. And I feel like sometimes the face-to-face personal option gets neglected. It just occurred to me that I'm kind of glad I'm recording this with video so you can see my facial expressions. I wish I could see yours. You're welcome to send me a video. I'm on Instagram at Piano Parent Podcast, and you can DM me a video or a voice audio file, whatever you want to. I'd love to hear back from you. Let's see what else. We've got verbal communication. Oh, in school, sometimes I will play when we have like the end of a quarter, or especially the last week of school when we've covered everything we need to cover, but I'm still seeing the students. I have a game that I have created that someday maybe I'll be able to bring it to the public. I need to figure that out, but it's just a fun game that we do on the whiteboard. I'll draw a grid on the whiteboard, and I have different cards that mean different things, and we have magnets to mark their place so they can move along the game board that I drew up on the whiteboard. And it's amazing to me how many children don't understand when you roll the dice and you move, it says to move 3, you don't count where you are, you go to the next square. And it's just a grid, with rows and columns, and you go from left to right, and then you go back to the next row, left to right, and they don't immediately understand that. I think that's something that they would understand if they had a chance to play more games. I'm glad they got to learn that in playing that little game with me. We also have textbooks in our music classroom at school, and we don't use them tons, but they are available to us. One of the reasons I don't use them very often is because a lot of the kids don't understand how to find a specific page in a book. I feel like that's a skill that I'm trying to teach them. If I ask you to turn to page 50, do you think that's going to be close to the beginning of the book when we've got over 200 pages in the book? And if you're trying to get to page 50, should you turn one single page at a time? No. Think about your numbers. Think about how high is 50? Is it a bunch more than 10, or is it just a few more than 10? And so think about, notice the page number that you're on, figure out how many pages to go forward. I would encourage you to test your child on that. Hopefully they're reading books, library books, and they're scanning through, I don't know, do they scan through encyclopedias and dictionaries anymore? No, because they can just say, hey Google, and look stuff up. Okay, note to self. Don't say the hey G word when you're recording a video because your phone will take you seriously. Oh boy, technology is wonderful until it isn't. So anyway, something as simple as turning the page in a book could be eye-opening for you and your piano kid. These sorts of skills, rolling a dice, holding a set of cards in your hand, following the pattern on a game board. These are things that you may take for granted because it's something you did when you were a kid, but it could be an entirely foreign concept to your piano kid. I would be interested to find out. If you can message me on Instagram at Piano Parent Podcast, then I would be interested to learn how your piano kid's doing. Hopefully, since they're studying piano and they're reading music left to right and going from one system to the next on their music page, hopefully they're already starting to get some of those cognitive skills, but it wouldn't be bad to double check. All of these skills, memory recall, problem solving, taking turns, verbal communication, those skills translate directly into a more confident music students. And I hope I've also proven the case that I believe more confident, productive citizens as they become adults, working in a job, going to college, figuring out how to do life on their own when they are more independent. A student who can follow game instructions can also follow musical phrasing. A student who can strategize in a game can strategize in their practice, and I say they can strategize their life skills as well. One of the other things that I really like about playing physical face-to-face games is the relationships that are built between you and your child, between me and a piano kid. I think it is so important to have those kinds of conversations, just the casual, nothing kind of conversation that might take place while you're playing a game. My notes say to share an example of my own experience and how it reveals different parts of a child's personality. My family, my parents, my brother, my children, my husband, his family, when we get together over the holidays, for forever, we have, one of the things that we do is play games. Some places we might watch a sporting event or something, and might have a football game playing in the background, but we just play games together. And one of our favorite games to play is scattergories, where you have these cards that have different topics, and then you roll a die that's a multi-sided die that has letters of the alphabet, and whatever letter comes up, then you've got a certain amount of time, and everyone on the board tries to come up with an answer to that topic that starts with the letter that was rolled. And then when the timer goes off, everybody compares their answers, and if you have a unique answer, then you get a point, or I don't remember exactly how all the rules are, but we were playing categories one year. The letter was A, and I don't remember what all of the topics were, but one of them was an animal. Terry, I'm sorry that I'm ratting you out about this, but it was a fun, cherished family memory now. But we went around the room, and there was the typical aardvark, ant. Maybe the conversation was, an ant is not an animal, it's an insect. And we got to my brother, and he said, orangutan. Which I had to look up. I still, to this day, hesitate when I try to spell orangutan. He was like, it starts with orangutan. No, it starts with an O. And that was just a silly thing, and it's probably a you had to be there kind of a deal. And you just listening to me talk about it, you don't have the context, and it may not be all that funny to you, but it tickled us. And I have the fondest memory of my mom laughing until tears are rolling down her face, or our sides are aching. We can't even move forward with the next topic or whatever the next round because we're so stuck on orangutan. And then years later, all you have to do is say to one of their family members, orangutan, orangutan. And we're all busting out laughing. And of course, my mom passed away in September of 2020 after a long battle with cancer. And I have moments where I miss her and I tear up, and I might tear up just talking about her, but I have orangutan and the memory of playing that game when she was laughing till she cried. Her eyes were leaking. And that's beautiful. I love that so much. And playing games with my children. Dwayne and I came home one time to see Carrie, Austin, and Tracy playing the board game Sorry, but they each had chosen their own headgear. I don't know how physical this game got, but one of them, I think Carrie was wearing some science goggles. Tracy was wearing, I think, swim goggles. Austin was wearing some sort of helmet. I think he had made this helmet out of paper and but he had covered the paper with insulated foam and then covered that with fiberglass. Anyway, he made this helmet from scratch. I think that was the one he was wearing. But it was the most funny sight seeing them playing the game. Sorry, of course, it had to be Sorry. And they're all wearing this crazy headgear. I love that for them. I don't know if they remember that. That's a special memory for me. Playing games with your child gives you a unique perspective into their personality, their curiosity, their cleverness, and even their resilience. Oh, if you're playing Sorry and your older brother sends you back to the starting point and says sorry when you know he's not sorry, oh, that can teach you some character traits in a hurry. And you may have to put out some fights, and you may have to decide, okay, Sorry is not the game for us. Let's find something that's a little less competitive. But those are wonderful insights into your child, the way they learn. The way they will learn and adapt to a game gives you some good information about how they will adapt when they're having to read this long book that they feel like they're never going to read, or they're having to learn this new piece of music their piano teacher gave them. I'm never going to learn this piece of music. It's so hard and it's so long and I don't even like it. Well, they probably are saying they don't like it just because they feel overwhelmed. But you, because you've played these games and you understand what helps them overcome an obstacle, you can help them get past that. Speaking of music that maybe they don't like to practice, you can gamify practice. I've talked about this on the podcast before, how you can use a simple die, or even you could tear up a piece of paper into 5 or 10 different pieces and write a different thing on each piece of paper, put them in a cup and pull the paper out, and whatever it says, that's what you practice. Maybe you put a name of one of their pieces on 4 different pieces of paper, and so you pull that out. Okay, I'm going to play this piece first, and then whatever the next piece. I like to use the dice game in piano lessons. It's so easy. If they've got a piece of music that has 4 lines, then I'll say, if we roll the die and it lands on 1, we'll play line 1. 2 is for line 2. If you roll a 5, you get to decide which line you want to practice. And if it lands on a 6, I get to decide. Or if you're at home and it lands on a 6, maybe your mom gets to decide, or you just roll the dice again. You can make up the rules as you go. You don't have to be a very strict rule follower. But that sometimes will get them over a hurdle from I didn't want to practice, or the whole song is too hard for me. Okay, roll the die. You only have to do line 3. Or if it's not that many lines, you only have to do the 3rd measure. However you want to adapt it to what your child needs at the time. Your goal is getting them to practice. Gamification is what will help them make it a more pleasant experience. Now, speaking of games, a few years ago, Tracy and I found a card game called Garbage. And it's a very simple card game. You have a deck of cards, and you and the other player each get 10 cards, and you keep them face down in front of you, and you spread them out either 2 rows of 5, or if you have enough space you can spread all 10 cards out. The remaining cards are in a draw pile in the center of the table, and you take turns drawing the top card, and if it is ace through 10, then you put it in its proper number place on on the face down cards that are in front of you. And you keep going, taking turns. Well, you place that card. Let's say I got a 3, so I put that in the 3 place, but I pick up the face down card that that 3 is taking the spot of. And I look at that new card. Oh, well, it's a 7. So I'm going to put that in the 7's place, pick up a new card, and I keep going until I get a king or a queen, or maybe another 7 or a card that has already been played. Then my turn is over. I discard the card that I couldn't play, and then it's the other person's turn, and you keep going until someone is the first person to turn over all 10 of their cards. It's an easy game, no strategy involved. But the nice thing about it not having strategy, it's pure luck, but you don't have to manipulate the game so that your child wins. If you're wanting to give them a win, you don't have to play terribly so that they win. Sometimes they just win because they got the last card that they needed. You can play just one round, like I just described, or you can play multiple rounds. Whoever the first person is to go out, then on the next round, they only get 9 cards. All the other players still have whatever total they had. And then you keep going until you have a player that just needs to get 1 card. They have to get that ace, which you think, oh, they just have to get an ace. But there's only 4 aces in the whole deck. And so we have played with the whole, doing all multiple rounds. It was a handy game to play whenever she was in the hospital years ago. She had several different, she had 3 open heart surgeries and some heart caths, and we've spent some time in the hospital, and this was an easy game to play on the hospital tray. I loved that game so much that I knew I wanted to play it with my piano kids. And so I've adapted it, and I'm so happy that I finally have a prototype. And I'm not going to talk long about the game, but just to briefly explain, rather than having 10 cards face down, you only have 7 cards, and we're looking for cards of the music alphabet. And in this deck, I have several suits. One would be just the plain letters. Another suit would be with the letters on the piano keys themselves. This one would be A, so that would be handy if I need A. Need to turn over the A spot. There's a G in the bass clef. Anyway, I won't talk a lot about this new game that I'm calling Music Alphabet Garbage. But the game that Tracy and I played was called Garbage, so it's the same basic gameplay, but I've adapted it so that we have musical concepts. We've got the mid staff, I stopped there. I've got treble staff, and we've got sharps or flats, and you can include those in the game, or those can be the garbage part of the game. If you come across something that can't play, put it in the discard pile, and that's garbage. Just like a king, a queen, or a jack would be garbage if you were playing with regular playing cards. Here we've got the bass staff, and if you've got a more advanced piano kid, we've even got key signatures. Do you know what letter that is? 1 sharp is the key of G, so that would go in my 7th place where the G is in the music alphabet. There are lots of variations. I've been playing this game with my piano kids, and we've come up with lots of different variations, and I'll have those listed on some links in the show notes page. The reason I'm telling you about it right now is because I'm launching a Kickstarter to try to crowdfund this game, and the Kickstarter starts July 1st, and I hope that you'll check it out. And if it's something that you think would be helpful for your piano kid, I would appreciate the support. I'm hoping to be able to offer it to lots of people, and maybe eventually offer it on my website where you can just buy the game standalone, and I can ship it to you. But we're starting with a Kickstarter. I've never done a Kickstarter before, so I'm probably doing it entirely all wrong. And if you have some tips for me, you can message me on Instagram at Piano Parent Podcast. Right now, I'm going to sign off Let's see if I've covered everything in my notes. I feel I feel sweat starting to roll down my back, and Tracy just sent me a text message. She's ready for some lunch, so I'm gonna go take care of that. But I hope I've convinced you that playing games with your piano kid matters more than you might think. So the next time you're at a restaurant or waiting around for something else to happen, you're trying to occupy your child's time, try to leave the tablet and your own smartphone in the bag. Don't pull out your smartphone for yourself. Don't whip out the tablet for your kid. Use that time. Pull out a deck of cards, quick, like that dot grid game, or even just a simple notebook. I didn't tell you this, in church sometimes my child and I would write each other notes back and forth, and that would give them experience reading. It would give me experience trying to interpret what they wrote. It gave them a chance to write, and that opened up some interesting conversations too. I promise we were paying attention to the preacher, but we were also quietly occupying our time. So pull out a deck of cards, a simple notebook, a couple of dice, play a shortened version of Yahtzee, laugh together, learn together, and keep building that beautiful relationship with your piano kid, one game at a time. Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like to check out the Kickstarter or any other links, I do have a link to kind of the history of a deck of cards and what all the different suits and everything. Some people think what that means. I'll have a couple of links for you in the show notes at pianoparentpodcast.com/364. I looked up to see if there was a game called 364, and I didn't find anything. Maybe we should make one up. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.